Welcome, Leisha. So today
Thank
I'm
you.
speaking with Leisha Wong, and I've known Leisha for some number of years, but we haven't spoken in quite a long time. So this will be awesome to get to catch up. I know that she's doing amazing things. So I'm going to let Leisha go ahead and introduce herself now and tell us all about what she's been up to.
Okay, well, no, thank you, Lisa, for reaching out and for this conversation. It's always great to talk about these things, and the questions that you know have really made me think about a lot of things that I probably wouldn't have thought of previously. I mean, it's interesting that you talk about conversations with creatives. I never really tend to think of myself as a creative, which is kind of crazy because obviously it's something that's ingrained in who I am and what I have been doing in my career. Um, so yes, I am the creative director and co-founder of Elle Creative, which is a creative branding agency based in Kingston, Jamaica. We do social media management, digital marketing, brand management, project management. It's a venture that I started with a good friend of mine, Elena Lynch, last year right before COVID hit in 2020. So the past year has been a very interesting journey. Let's just put it that way. It's been full of twists and turns, things that I wouldn't have, previously expected. But it's been a great chapter in the journey of life so far.
Awesome. Well, I'm always interested in hearing about the journey leading up to where you currently are now. So I know that you moved back to Jamaica some years ago. You got married, you now have children. So can you tell us a little bit about you were in Miami and I think in the UK. Can you tell us a little bit about that journey, that return home?
Sure. Oh yes, it's interesting because I have been in Jamaica for 15 years this year. It's kind of crazy. I also left England 21 years ago, which is, and I was in England until I was 21. So it's kind of an interesting place in my life right now. So I was born in Miami. My parents were married in Jamaica and moved to Miami. I was born in Miami. And then when my parents divorced, I moved to London with my mom very young and basically grew up there. So all school, I went to university in London, but I would spend the summers and the Christmases with my dad. And he was based in Miami, and because of him, I spent a lot of time in Jamaica growing up as a child. So every summer, every Christmas, I was in Jamaica. So I really did form a great foundation of my life growing up in Jamaica, but in a different way. So when I was 21, I just decided that I had kind of had enough of the weather. The weather, I mean, I love London, don't get me wrong. I love it. For me, in my soul, is kind of still home for me. And I have great memories there. It's the most amazing city, but the weather was very difficult to maneuver. So I moved to Miami when I was 21. Was there for a few years, and then I moved to New York and I did my master's in journalism at NYU. Worked in that industry for a while. I was in New York working for a little bit, then moved back to Miami. And then the move happened to Jamaica 15 years ago. So, I mean, it's all of those stations, as it were, have definitely contributed to who I am. Contributed to this, all the life experiences that I've had have just definitely contributed to the person that I am today. But I definitely am I still hold on to those experiences that I had in London and in Miami and in New York, and now in Jamaica. And it's been an incredible 15 years. I can't believe that it's almost 15 years already. But yeah, I started dating somebody and he was living in Jamaica. And so you could never have told me that I was going to be living in Jamaica, as much as a part of my soul always felt very comfortable here. And I had great connections with people. I always felt very at peace with who I was when I was in Jamaica, but I could never have told you that I was going to live here. So that was a hugely unexpected piece of the puzzle.
Yeah. And do so having lived in all of these places, do you, I know that you still travel, I guess you still travel pre-COVID and all of that, but what is it like? You said, you mentioned being at peace in Jamaica. And I think that's a really, really interesting thing, because I experienced that too. Having lived in other places, coming back home is always so special. It's like this connection that is intangible. You can't really describe it. And you can go far and wide, but still it's a coming home kind of thing. How do you reconcile that, if you need to, with the need then to explore and to travel and to experience?
Right. Well, it's interesting you say the word experience, because for me, life is all about experiences, right? Making memories. And so when I'm in Jamaica, I think for me also it's the people that are around me here. The connections are, I have great authentic connections with friends here who I really just connect with, and I feel like they get me. That part was missing a little bit when I was in London. Again, I had some amazing friends when I was growing up, but I think that there was always something missing. And that part of me kind of was just felt comfortable here in Jamaica. That being said, it's super, traveling is ingrained in who I am. I was very lucky. My dad, when I was younger, was huge into traveling. And so every summer he would take me somewhere, different from when I was very young. So we traveled to China and to Japan and Australia. And I've been, to Kenya on safari and Alaska. And, for him, traveling was very important. And just seeing the world and experiencing the different cultures. Of course, part of that is also food. I mean, food is for me, growing up, food was always essential. When I was growing up in London, food in my family brought us together. Like it was always conversations around the dinner table, whether it was in a restaurant or at home. And again, my parents in London were huge foodies as well. They food for them was very important. So we were always going out and trying new things, and, I was learning about wine. And so that was very much part of my childhood growing up. And so those experiences definitely are a part of traveling, and, just experiencing new sensations and flavors and sights. I mean, it's important. I have to say, one of the things that has allowed me to be very comfortable living in Jamaica is the opportunity to travel. I mean, even if it's to New York, where my sister lives, or, even if it's just to Miami, just the ability to travel and just see different things is crucial.
Yeah.
So yeah, travel is definitely ingrained in who I am as well.
I was thinking when you were talking too about how travel doesn't sometimes necessarily have to mean leaving the borders of a country, especially when we're talking about food, right? Because we can experience different cultures by going to different restaurants. And I think that's one of the things I love most about eating out.
Absolutely. I mean, it's as you said, creating these experiences and making memories were definitely one of the important things in terms of what I did in my career. Because while I started in journalism, and when I moved to Jamaica, I was working at the Jamaica Observer. I told my boyfriend at the time, I said to him, I'm not moving to Jamaica unless I get a job, unless I have a job. Like I'm not just moving to just do nothing.
Right.
And I got a job on the lifestyle desk at the Jamaica Observer, which was an incredible experience. It really allowed me to get my feet wet in Jamaica. I was, I went to I met some amazing people, got to interview a lot of incredible people, learned so much about art, art scene in Jamaica, which, I wasn't fully familiar with before. Really entrenched in the food scene, very much entrenched in just the hospitality movement and, in Jamaica. So that was an incredible experience for me. And then when I moved on from that, and I was then at Skywritings, which was Air Jamaica magazine at the time. I was the editor there for a few years, which again was another amazing experience. But when I moved on from there, it did move into events, creating experiences, because I think at that point, that's really what I wanted to do. I wanted to create, unforgettable experiences through events. And then, obviously, as you said, it started food-wise. That's where the event journey started in food when I launched Kingston Kitchen, which was 10 years ago, actually, this year. So, yeah.
Can you give us the concept of Kingston Kitchen and apart from bringing the experience, what was that experience all about?
So the idea kind of came from, I was in London for the summer, and had gone to a number of food markets when I was in London. And I was like, why is there nothing like this in Jamaica? Food is so crucial to who we are as Jamaicans. The flavors, the spices, just the general bounty of nature that's here in Jamaica. And there's so many different flavors. Why was there nothing like just a general food market in Jamaica that allowed people to experience all of these in a very accessible way, as well as providing a platform for these gourmet artisans who were doing amazing things in their kitchens, in their homes, all across the island, to really be able to connect with other foodies and potential customers, whether those be small customers or, the larger, commercial customers. So I went to a friend of mine, Jackie Sinclair, who I had met through the Jamaica Observer. She was another UK Jamaican like I was, and so we were connecting on a lot of levels. And the two, I said, we're going to make this happen. I don't know why there isn't anything like this. Let's do it. And then we connected with Melanie Miller, who was another friend who had some great experience in food events. She had done a lot of stuff with Sobe Wine and Food Festival in Miami. And so she had that level of experience. So the three of us came together and launched Kingston Kitchen in December 2011. And the idea of it was just to create a family-friendly, fun space that really showcased what we were doing here locally on the food scene. So it started very small. I think we had about 20 or so vendors at the time at Hope Gardens. It started every other month, which at the point was, after that first year, we're like, okay, this is not sustainable. So the journey of the event also, it was not a journey. We did the first year every other month. Then the year after that, we moved to twice a year. And then we settled on just doing it once a year because we wanted to be able to, we had a movement throughout the rest of the year. We had magazines, we had our blog, we had a bunch of other things that supported the event. But now we ended up doing one event a year. We had about 70 plus vendors at the last event, with over like 3,000 people came to support. So the truth is that it was really something that was appreciated and needed in the local culinary scene. It's great when we speak to people who say, oh, we kind of got our first push, or we launched our products at Kingston Kitchen. That's really what we were trying to do. We really wanted to create a platform and get the conversation going about what was really happening on food in a very accessible, family-friendly way.
The concept of Kingston Kitchen, what comes to mind is this idea of community. in your own relationships and in what you're trying to build also. I think in all of your projects you collaborate, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, how important is that for you?
That's such an interesting question. I've never really thought about that. But it's very true. Um, Kingston Kitchen was definitely a collaboration of the three of us, three ladies. And again, it was important that it was three ladies. It was three women at the time who there weren't, and there still really aren't that many women in event production.
Mm.
So it was important for us to kind of maintain that Kingston Kitchen ladies. From there, I moved to, I also, within the food events, we also did the Dinner Blanc event in Kingston. So, and again, that was a collaboration. That was a very good friend of mine, Stephen Price, and his wife, Imani, joined, and I collaborated with my husband, Brett, on that. So it was two couples. We had done a lot of, the Prices and us had traveled a lot. You know, we were in London for the Olympics, and we knew that we both of us enjoyed creating different events or different experiences. And so, you know, I came across the concept, the Dinner Blanc event, and just pitched it. I'm like, guys, let's just do this. And so that was another collaboration. We created the Chow Society. It's turned out that we've all got very, very busy and we couldn't really do much as that entity. But we did do the Dinner Blanc. We did 4 events in Kingston. And again, the concept behind it was to create something a little bit different. There wasn't anything that was really like that. For the first time that we did the Dinner Blanc, it was a lot about education. Educating people as to what the concept was about. We had, you know, Stephen and I had been to the one in Miami, so we knew what it was like outside of Jamaica. And we did have a number of people who had been to other events, and so we're familiar with the concept. But for those who weren't familiar, it was an opportunity to kind of educate and kind of show a different type of experience, you know, the whole picnic concept. Which isn't necessarily a part of the Jamaican culture, although it kind of is. Yes. You know, liming and chilling with friends, and eating with friends and drinking with friends. I mean, that's very Jamaican. It's just really the idea of the concept of the picnic. So it took a little bit of an education to kind of get people into understanding what it was about. But it was a great event. It was really different. And so that was another collaboration. And then, as you said, yes, Elle Creative is another collaboration. And it's funny how that came about because, as I said, Elena and I have been friends for a long time. And she has her experiences are in events as well, large scale events, marketing, advertising. She worked in television. She has a very wide. She also spent some time in publishing. So there's some similarities between what it was that we did, and we actually partnered on an event that she was doing back in 2019, which was the Caribbean Travel Marketplace, which took place in Jamaica. A huge travel market. A lot of very important stakeholders from the region were there and globally. And I had come together with her to do the launch event for the conference. And we did it, and we're like, there's a lot of synergies here, So before that, I had been freelancing and doing a lot of different projects. So I was doing the Chow Society events. I also was working a lot with the Frenchmen parties at the time. I still am. COVID has kind of thrown that. I kind of put that project on the back burner, but I was doing a lot of work with the Frenchmen at the time. And I had a great crew that supported me, who helped me, and they were just encouraging me that, Leisha, you need to start your own thing. They even came up with a name for me and a logo, and was like, I don't know, like,
What
I
was
don't
the
know.
name? Was it Elle Creative?
No, it wasn't. It actually was, it was the law agency. Now, law are my initials.
Yes.
So I was like, what? I don't know. I know this is something that I want to do. So this was January 2019.
Mhm.
January 2020, sorry. And January 2020, I went to see Oprah
Oh,
with
did
our friends from Jamaica. We all went up to Miami and we went to see Oprah. And you know, I was really working on kind of just being open to what the next step was for me, you know, what the purpose was this something that I was supposed to do, you know, what was next in the journey for me.
yeah.
And so I came back from Miami and I was like, you know what, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do law agency. And I was like, yeah, this is what I'm going to do. And I was at an event with Elena, and I don't know, this crazy idea just came to me, and I thought, you know, law agency stands for, is my initials, right? Leisha Alexis Wong. But it's also the stands for Lynch and Wong agency.
Mm.
So I said, Elena, it's a crazy idea, but you know, why don't we do this? I said, you know, something is aligning here. Obviously, this law agency is supposed to happen. So she thought about it. She's like, yeah, you know what? Let's do it. Let's really do it. So we did it. We started incorporating the company, you know, building out company culture, like what we're going to do. And then when we were trying to redesign the logo, something wasn't sitting quite right with us, with the whole name, with the name. So the reason it wasn't really quite sitting properly with us is that law, as in Lynch and Wong, wasn't really who we were. It was who our husbands were.
Wow.
So we're like, we really want a name who we are.
Right.
And so Elena so Elle is actually E-L for Elena and L-E for Leisha. And that's kind of how Elle came together. And then, you know, beyond that, Elle was feminine.
Mm.
It was it was female power. It was, you know, the power of mothering and nurturing and being here to support like female creatives. That was a lot of the brand vision when we were creating the brand. It was to support women, and you know, our team is all female, and you know, this female energy that lends to our creative process and helps, you know, and helps define who we are. Very few people kind of get the fact that Elle is a combination of both of our names. And so it's something, and we keep saying it's a story that we have to tell. It's because we, you know, when we work with our clients, we are very much storytellers. And that is with everything that I've done, I'm definitely a storyteller. So whether it was when I was a journalist at Daily News in New York, or you know, at the Observer, and doing events, it's always about telling a story. And I think that's been crucial. And so with our clients, it's the same way. We're telling the story of the brand. And in doing so, we're creating this connection for people. You know, it's who are the people behind the brand? What's their story? What's the history? You know, that is really what creates these connections. And then, you know, further on down the line in terms of the marketing, it, you know, creates brand loyalty and, you know, that kind of thing. So storytelling is always very crucial.
It strikes me that the brand is the intention behind it is imbued in the name, because Elle is French for her, right?
Exactly.
And that was that intended, or was that just a coincidence?
Again, it all kind of just came together. It all just aligned very magically. You know, those things for us are important. You know, this concept of this alignment and things developing magically for us. In our logo, we have the moon because, I mean, the moon, it represents mothering and nurturing as well as illumination. And so, you know, the concept again behind Elle is that we are illuminating your brands through telling the stories. So yes, we've been very conscious about everything when we were building our brand, you know, conscious about the people who were in our team, conscious about, you know, our company culture, our vision, our brand values. We also wanted to create an environment that was supportive of other female creatives, to be able to give everybody else, to give everybody a voice, you know, and that's very much engendered in the mothering side of Elena and I. I mean, between us, we are raising 5 girls. The female energy is very strong.
Yeah, all I'm getting here is the rise of the you know, this idea of the divine feminine.
Absolutely, absolutely. The divine feminine is very much ingrained in who we are, who our brand is. Absolutely. And we, you know, it was very important for us to, I'd say again, create a team and to create an environment, a culture that was supportive of all of this. You know, one of the very important things when Elaine and I started this company was that we wanted the flexibility to be both a mother, let me not say both, to be a mother and a wife and a girlfriend and a cousin and a business owner and a creative. Does it all happen seamlessly? Absolutely not. Is there a balance? Boy, most days, absolutely not. Especially when we are dealing with homeschool and extracurricular activities and growing personalities, and a growing business, which has, you know, required a lot of time from Elena and I. So, you know, in terms of flexibility or in term, it's been hard, you know, and that balance has been hard. Mom guilt is real. And even though they are home and even though, you know, we technically do have the flexibility to be able to say, hey, I'm checking out, I'm plucking out now. I'm, you know, we're both, Elena and I both very committed to this company and committed to our clients. We want to create a company and a legacy that stands for itself, and also to be able to kind of show our girls the importance of working, the importance of having this identity, you know, and that allows them to kind of show and shine in the world. Now, that could be whatever it is that you choose it to be, but it's important to be able to have that level, or have that space where you are able to shine, to keep shining.
COVID, this period of COVID, which now I'm thinking I shouldn't really be calling it the period of COVID. It's something that's happening in this moment.
Yeah.
But it doesn't necessarily have to define the moment or who we are in the moment. It has been, for some, a period of deep introspection, because it's given us the opportunity to slow down. And you spoke about homeschooling. You're probably spending more time with your kids now than you ever have since, you know, when they were first born. And that's been, you know, we hear in the US, and I'm sure there too, there are these ideas of, or these experiences of being just really sort of burnt out on the other side of the spectrum. And you were just talking about, you know, that balance, and really not, we always talk about balance, but is there really a balance? And I don't know if realistically there is. What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, realistically, I don't think there is a balance, because what happens, or what tends to happen, is that what tends to happen with me, I can only speak from me personally. What tends to happen with me is that whatever I'm doing, I want to do it really well, right? So when I'm at work, I'm everything is in work. And if I have a project that needs to get done, I'm going to put everything that I need to into that project to get it done. When I'm with my kids, I love spending time with them. We have some great family memories, and I'm in that completely. So in terms of finding a balance, I think it's a fallacy. And I think that a lot of women or working moms are hard on themselves because they're chasing this vision or this idea of balance. And I think that that's what's more important is understanding that whatever it is that you're doing, be there, be present in that moment and do what you're doing. And be kind on yourself, be gentle on yourself when you don't necessarily hit the balance. There's going to be times when work is super hard, and I we've been there. We've just been through the first year of this company, and we're building a brand. So it's definitely been hard. Now we're building it with the vision that we will be in a place where we have a great team that we can rely on, and we're able at that point to release a little bit, and then that will give us the flexibility to spend more time with the kids. But I think that what's the most important thing is just whatever it is that you're doing, just be present in that, because when you're working, you're, oh my gosh, I'm feeling so bad, I should be with the kids, and then you're with the kids, you're like, oh my gosh, I have that deadline, I'm supposed, and so it just becomes, everything becomes so jumbled. And it's I think that as women, we're often too hard on ourselves. And it's important to be gentle and to understand that there's no perfect formula for this. There isn't. It's a journey, and it's really just trial and error until you figure out what works for you. But this striving for balance, I think we become so obsessed with finding a balance that you lose sight really of where you are in the present. And so I think it's more important to be rooted in the present and be focused on whatever it is that you're doing, so you can then release that and move on to being whichever version of yourself that you need to be next. Because as women, it's different versions of ourselves, right?
You're presenting.
Exactly. We are the wife, we are the girlfriend, we are the business owner, we are the daughter, so it's very important to recognize all of that.
So on the heels of all the things that we are, and not wanting to be pigeonholed or one thing, all the time, how do you stay grounded? Like, what are the practices that you use to stay in the essence of who you are so that you can show up in all these different ways?
Right. That's a great question. And it is, it's something that I don't think I have a clear answer for, because, there are certain things that, yes, that's what's important is finding time for yourself, right? In all of this, in all of the many hats that we wear, is not forgetting who you are, as you said, who you are authentically and truly, who you are for yourself. For me, spirituality has played a big part in terms of, I am very much into, and I don't, when I say astrology, I don't necessarily mean like just, but I've become very grounded in a little bit in astrology, and yoga practices and being present. I don't do yoga as much as I wish I did. But that was one of my big resolutions last year, was to become more grounded and focused in yoga. Sorry. So that's very crucial. And again, things like music. Music is very important to me. Listening to it, music has often, for me, in the journey of my life, has definitely been a method of communication in a way, almost. And again, that's from childhood. Music was always playing, but very different types of music. And my parents introduced me to, very different, whether it's jazz and classical, it was always, or opera, it was always playing in the house. So music has been something that I turn to in moments that I need to ground myself, or find, have some clarity or some quiet, because sometimes we get so bogged down by the noise. There's a lot of noise, and whether it's just to-do lists, or actually to-do lists creates a lot of noise in my head. Sometimes just being able to kind of switch off and listen to music is great. I mean, reading was a huge part of who I used. I just haven't had the opportunity to read as much recently. But that's, again, another thing that I keep saying, I'm going to read more. I'm going to read more. So things like that, I think, keep me grounded. My family is very important to me. And they definitely, as much as it is important for me to be me and to create this clear space for who I am, I also still can't deny the fact that being a mother and a wife is crucially part of my identity. And, my relationship with Brett is crucial, so that we're also showing our daughters, a mature relationship, and just creating a space of love for them that helps them, again, be who they are. It's very important for me, when I'm raising these two girls, to create a space where they feel true to who they can be. They're two very different children, two very different girls. They look totally different. They have totally different personalities. And so it's very important for me to kind of honor who they both are in those spaces that they're in. So,
wow, that's awesome, because I see a lot of people, some parents, I always take a pause when I see children dressed exactly the same.
right.
I wonder, how do they feel about that? I always wonder, like, how do they feel about that? I remember being younger and really not wanting to be dressed like my sisters. We wanted to have our own individual identities.
And it's I actually love, it's funny, when I got pregnant second time, we had a girl, Bella. She's our first girl. She's gonna be 11 in September. And when I got pregnant the second time, of course we were hoping that it would be a boy, his Brett is, he, to have his boy and to carry his name, and all that stuff. And then when we found out that it was a girl, I said to him, okay, maybe we'll go for a third. And he's like, no, and have 3 girls. No, I think we're good with the 2 girls. The girls do run very strong in my family, on my side. My mother is one of 7 daughters. Wow. She has 3 daughters, and currently we have 5 granddaughters. So there are no boys on my mother's side. So it's kind of a running joke that the women run strong. So when we found out that we're having 2 girls, I thought, this is supposed to be so nice. I'll have 2 little girls. They're going to look similar, and didn't happen. 2 girls, completely different, beautiful in their own ways, and I am so grateful for that. I'm so grateful that they are 2 different people. And yeah, it's very important, I think, to honor those. And I'm a different. Both of them need different things from me. I'm a different mother to them, and and that was a learning curve for me as well, to understand that to be the mother that they needed me to be to them was very different. Their needs are very different. And it's important to kind of recognize that but that has been part of my motherhood journey.
So let's switch gears a little bit and talk about some of the challenges that you experience as an entrepreneur in, well, let's not just say the challenges, but what are some of the challenges and the opportunities that you experience as an entrepreneur doing business in the Caribbean space?
Um, okay, so it's funny. Again, I've never really thought of myself as an entrepreneur. And it's, I mean, it's just the word is never really, but I guess we are, we started this business. Um, to be honest, I don't have experience of it anywhere else, right? So I can only speak about what it is like here. And, you know, for at the time when we decided to do this, obviously we didn't have any idea that COVID was about to come and kind of change the way that everybody thinks and does things. One of our first big projects was an event for Carnival. It was for Jamaica Carnival, big event. That was our first big project. And then of course Carnival was cancelled. So we were kind of thrown into a tailspin of what next. But it did give us a really good opportunity to kind of take a step back, to pause, to slow us down. I think that we were very just ready to kind of get right into it, because we had this opportunity. And then COVID kind of slowed us down and made us really think about, what we wanted and how, what kind of space we wanted to create. And pivoting, I know it's overused and it's a little bit of a cliche now, but the pivot that we did was has been great. It's actually been an opportunity for us to really redefine who and what it was that we were doing for our clients. And I mean, I think one of the great things about doing business here is that because it's so small, and because Elena and I had such, good careers separately, we had great relationships with a lot of people. So when we kind of came together and we brought those synergies together, we were able to tap into those relationships, which I think is a good thing and I think that's something that probably sets entrepreneurship apart in Jamaica. Yes, well, that's still there, all around the world and globally, relationships and connections is important. We are a small pond here. And so, it's always, okay, you know somebody who knows somebody, or, so we're able to tap into that, all of those linkages to kind of help in any scenario, but it definitely helped because that we had extensive careers separately.
Yeah,
we were able to kind of bring those synergies together.
Wow. And as you think about coming together and bringing this together in this new birthing, this new baby for both of you,
Yes.
how do you mentioned the pivot, and so how is the pivot, what did you pivot from and to, like the
Sure.
traditional business to, and what are you pivoting to?
So when we started, I think at the time, both of our most recent experience was in events. And so for us, moving together, it was to keep continuing on this event space, and creating experiences and connections through events. And then obviously COVID came and the event world was kind of put on the back burner. We then moved into different ways of storytelling, right? So that was through social media, that was through just brand development, content creation. We were able to kind of tell the stories through different ways. We also obviously we're in a situation now where we had to talk about this concept of being a mom and managing homeschool and running a business. So that kind of pivoting, it took a little bit of a while for us to kind of find our footing in that space, because that was a challenge. I have to say that was probably one of the biggest challenges, being able to maneuver and manage those two different hats at the same time, basically. When we had for us, the company culture is also very important, and our office space is very, a part of who we are. And then obviously we were forced to do a lot of work from home. Now, our team is young, and they're very much very flexible and adaptable to that. And they it was perfect for them. For Elena and I now, who really wanted to create, for whom the company culture was crucial, we were now having to experience and having to utilize different platforms for project management and communication, whether it be Slack or Asana, to now help us maneuver this new space, this work from home space, which I think remains for us a little bit of a challenge, because again, we're very hands-on people. We vibe from our team members, which is why our team is so important to us. It's important that they, when all of our energies together, blend. We're not a big team, we're a small team, and so it's important that our energies kind of come together. And we've been very lucky to create a team that does blend and work well together. So the work from home and all those restrictions that kind of came with it did present a little bit of a challenge. But again, it just forced us to then investigate the different ways that we had to make it work. So finding platforms, finding the processes and the procedures to ensure that we were still, hitting our marks and, getting deliverables in on time. And, that level of communication that when you're in office is so easy to just call somebody out the door. Now it was, ensuring that we had those communication platforms to make sure that, nothing fell through the cracks.
Right. There's a big debate going on now here and maybe in Jamaica too, about, this idea of hybrid work or teleworking. And, there's a labor shortage here now. People are not wanting to go back into these grueling, demanding jobs. And they're choosing to stay home and work however they can, via the internet or, in other ways where they're not going into these jobs. And the industries that are most affected are like the restaurant industry and the hospitality industry. So it's a really interesting time here. I don't know if that is happening in any way in Jamaica. Is that playing out there?
Not particularly. I don't think the whole labor shortage. I know. I see it happening in the States, and I think it's a lot of the stimulus checks and that kind of thing that are still working to stimulate the economy over there. Over here, we don't have that level of support, so people have to go out to work. So we haven't had that, and now that we have the fact that we still have these curfews in place, it does make it hard for the hospitality and restaurants, especially, to be able to hit the marks that they need to hit. And from tomorrow, our curfew is back to 7 p.m., which means that restaurants now have to close at least an hour before. And so that whole aspect of the industry where you would go out and dine and, it cuts it very short. And so so I know it's hitting the restaurant and hospitality industry hugely. We just had, events have been closed down again. It did open up briefly over the Independence weekend. And there were a number of big events that were held. And then obviously there was discussions on, whether those events would now be super spreader events or what would come out of those events moving forward. I think it remains to be seen what will happen. Yes, our numbers have been going up, and whether it's, I don't think it can be directly tied to those events, but just in general, people are out a lot more, and still vaccinations are still need to get up there, the level of vaccinations that we need to get to kind of, have an impact specifically on how our numbers are moving. So yeah, I mean, I think in terms of the working, people want the jobs and people will go out for the jobs.
Right.
That being said, in the corporate world, the whole work from home hybrid model is something that I think is here to stay for a lot of companies. I mean, for us, I mean, as much as I say that, in office working is ideally how we would like to work, we are more flexible,
Right.
to the fact that, our team members can be productive from home. And just, I guess for us, we miss that level of camaraderie and community that exists when you're working in the same space.
Yeah.
And so if we're talking about it, the hybrid is important, so that there is still that aspect of working together as a team, and vibing off each other's energy, especially when it comes to the creative side of and being innovative in our field.
So we've talked a little bit about the evolution of the workplace, and you are still very, very active in the food scene. You recently had an article that was published in Eater, and you talked about all of the restaurants that are really wonderful in Jamaica, and you shared this information. So how do you see, well, with all of the COVID restrictions now, it's difficult, as you mentioned. And anybody who's watching, please do go out and support your restaurants. You can do carry out, and you can certainly buy gift certificates. That's a huge way to support them as well if they have that. But how do you see the evolution now of the restaurant industry, and specifically as it relates to sustainability in terms of produce offerings? Where do you see that going, especially in a place like Jamaica, which is so rich in things, to bring
Yeah.
to the table, literally?
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
Yeah, as we were talking about before, food is so crucial to Jamaica's culture. And the richness of our soil and the bounty that it produces is very unique to Jamaica. As we saw in the Olympics just now, and how the Jamaican runners, and yes, it's all the yam and the dashi and that they're eating. I mean, the natural bounty of Jamaica is very powerful. I think there are experiences in Jamaica now that speak to that and that honor that. Anybody that follows me, may know that I love Stush in the Bush. It's one of my favorite. I call it my happy place here. It's just a magical place that is just built on love, and the love just is infused in everything that they do. It's all vegan. It redefines the vegan experience for anybody that has an opportunity to go. And I think that experiences like that are crucial in how Jamaica moves forward in terms of the food industry. I think that 10 years ago when we started Kingston Kitchen, or even 15 years ago when I moved to Jamaica, the food scene was definitely not as vibrant as it is now in terms of diversity. Local traditional Jamaican food has always been amazing here, the spices and the aromas of those dishes that are crucial in terms of Jamaican culture. But in terms of the diversity that you now see, that's definitely something that's bloomed, I would say, within the last 5 years. And this is definitely a gourmet industry that is taking local products and being inspired by international influences or tastes, and utilizing them in ways that we can now, we are now experiencing flavors that we would have before have had to go to Miami for. And so the truth is that there is so much power in the produce and that we have here, and now the creativity of a lot of our gourmet artisans here are really taking the opportunity to redefine the food experiences. So whether that's very talented caterers who are doing events or private events, to restaurateurs, and or people who are, you know, more, whether it's focusing on baking at home or condiments and spices, and just the level of creativity that is coming out now is definitely blooming. And I think that that will continue to grow, and well, I hope that it continues to grow, because that's really, that diversity is something that will, as long as it remains consistent, and consistency I think is key. And I think that's sometimes an area that we tend to fall down on sometimes when it comes to food here. Once we're able to kind of maintain that consistency, then there's, you know, that's definitely what I think where the future for food here. You know, we have so much here, and I think that a lot of times we don't necessarily recognize it. You know, so yes, you can only get avocado or pear when it's pear season, right? And so sometimes we're frustrated, like, oh, you know, we want some pear to go with whatever, but it's just not in season. And so the truth is that when we do get the fresh produce and everything that we get here, it's at its most optimum.
Yeah,
it's optimum because it's in season, and it's tied to, you know, that time that we're at right now. So I think, you know, in terms of the restaurant business, again, I think it's a space where we are definitely growing and diversifying. I mean, there's so many new restaurants popping up, which is great. And the offerings now are, there is so much more available to us as Jamaicans in terms of, you know, when we want to eat out, which is great. And I think even in COVID, you're right, you know, the takeout and the carry out elements of it have been growing. It's forced restaurants to also relook at their business models, to see, okay, well, in these scenarios, you know, how are we now in a position to pivot and to remain relevant in this space, and to be able to deliver our product to the diners who still want this food in a sustainable way.
Right.
So I think it's been a learning curve for a lot of people.
Yeah, it's definitely been in the big shift in our lifetimes, at least.
Yes, absolutely.
Still, I think it's an opportunity, and it keeps happening. You know, it keeps happening to rethink and reanalyze how we do our lives on every single level.
Absolutely.
So with that, on the heels of that, or with that in mind, tell us about what you do, a day in your life. I know the kids are there, you know, Brett is there. What is a day in your life like?
So, you know, my day tends to start pretty early, especially when the kids are in school. I think that, well, no, I don't think. If any exercise is happening for me, and I don't want to say I used to be a runner, because I still try and consider myself a runner. I just don't run as consistently as I used to. Running for me used to be key. You know, you talked about being grounded before. Running used to be key in who I was, and you know, in setting this daily mental space for me. The 4:30 a.m. wake ups have been a little harder of recent. I'm not gonna lie, but usually any kind of running or exercise or workout has to happen, and if it doesn't happen before 7 a.m., it's not happening. So I usually will wake up early, and I will, whether it's yoga or running or something, kind of just to get my body active and to start. And then it's really focused on getting the kids ready. So if they're going to school, it's, you know, getting them ready, dropping them at school, or settling them into homeschool. I have to say that I've been very lucky. The online platform that their school provided was great. And so I don't think that their learning was really interrupted too much. So the online school platform was awesome. And then they have also become so familiar with it that I didn't necessarily need to be as hands-on with them
Mhm.
at home. They were older, they were now more familiar with the platform, they knew how to manage their time a little bit better. So I have to say, for the past like 6 months or so, the managing the homeschool online platform was great. So once the kids are off, it's really in the office, and just, making sure that, checking the to-do list and making sure that, emails are answered, plans are made. If the team is not here, if the team is working from home, checking in with each team member, seeing what they're working on for each day. And then just really just working through that with Elena, interspersed with, working with Elena is never dull.
What is that? Okay, can you expand on that?
People always ask, what's it like working with a friend, right? And the truth is that it can go either way, right? I think we are very lucky in that we have found a groove for the two of us that works very well.
Yeah.
And I think we are, we're close enough that there's an honesty that we can be very honest with each other and understand the place where it comes from, right? And because we've had so many experiences together, we kind of know how each other works. We kind of feel each other's energies, we feel each other's vibes, so we know kind of when to back off or when to push or when to say what needs to be said. So and Elena is, she's a firecracker of a person. Like, her energy is so bright and bold. So it's awesome to kind of spend time with her in that space. So yeah.
And then I interrupted you. So
Sorry.
you're about midday now.
I usually eat breakfast around this time. To be honest, people always tell me I forget to eat, and quite often I do forget to eat. As much as I love food, I often tend to forget to eat. So I usually eat breakfast around that time, by 11 o'clock. School pickups would be around 2 o'clock when they were in school. And then, obviously it's also extracurricular activities. So whether it's Layla in her gymnastics, or Bella in her swimming, there's usually something for either of them to go to. We try and wrap up work-wise around between like 6. We try and finish around 5, but it never happens. So it's usually around 6 or so that we're kind of wrapping up, and then we take that opportunity to then, go into our other roles as moms and wives. And, for us, another good thing that came out of COVID for our family is Brett has come home earlier. So eating dinner together every night is very important for us. So he'll come home and we'll have dinner together as a family, because, usually mornings are, they're gone, or we don't often get to spend the time together in the morning. Like, he's working out or I'm working out, or we're just the general rush of trying to get into the day. So at the end of the day, it gives us an opportunity to kind of just come together, and we listen to music and we have dinner, and we chat about the day. And that time is very important for us. And that time really has come out of COVID. It's because, as you said before, it was an opportunity to kind of pause and to reevaluate and redefine. And for us, it was very important to not lose some of those things, right? So dinner has always been that thing for us. When I was growing up, it was also that thing. And so sitting down as a family to eat dinner is very crucial to us. Bedtime, bath time with the girls again, story time. And then, Bert and I get time together, and that again is important, because, we are so engulfed and busy in our day that time is really our opportunity to kind of get together now and reconnect.
So 2 more fun questions. You mentioned listening to music. So the option is, what are you currently watching, reading, or listening to that you want to share?
So it's funny, because I would always talk to friends, and they were always talking about, you know, this new Netflix series that they're watching, and this is maybe like a year ago. I was like, I don't know how people have time to watch Netflix. Like, I just don't get it. I would love to be able to kind of, you know, get involved in some of these series, but I just don't have the time. So in January 2020, when I was kind of manifesting this life and these things and changes I was going to do for my life, people joke and they say that I bought on COVID. Now, let's just put it into perspective, because January last year, some of the things that I spoke about were, I wanted to spend more time with my kids. I wanted to cook more. I wanted to watch more Netflix. I wanted to get a holiday weekend where I didn't have to work Frenchmen. All of that happened because of COVID. Now, and so, you know, yeah, so in terms of like Netflix, in terms of series, I've gone a little bit better. Like we have been watching a lot of documentaries and things like that, and so like the evolution of hip hop, anything that's connected to music. So biographies of, you know, the Nina Simone, and we love watching those kind of things. Music, though, for me is crucial again. So whether it's some 90s soul and R&B, and, you know, getting a little throwback and nostalgic days, it really depends on how I'm feeling that day. You know, I'll throw a little soca in sometimes if I need to, like, just lift my spirits. I mean, soca just does that for me and my soul. I'm listening to a lot of new R&B soul, so some new soul artists, some of the young up and like Snow Allegra, you know, I love that kind of those kind of artists. Alina Baraz, like when I'm working at home, that's the kind of soundtrack that I have playing. So, but music is definitely crucial. I think one of my all-time favorite artists would be Sade Amishiya from growing up, from when I was at boarding school. My friends knew that if they heard Sade playing, to just leave me alone, like leave me in my space. So yeah.
Okay, well, thank you for sharing those.
Sure.
Okay, who would you love to share a meal with and why? This could be somebody who has passed on or could still be living, but if you had your ultimate pick to invite to dinner.
Right. So, I mean, I think, and this, I don't know if this is cliched, but like in one person would be Oprah. For me, Oprah has, you know, she's always kind of been a consistent part in my life. So whether it was when I was living in Miami and watching Oprah, and kind of being inspired by her in terms of her as a journalist, because that was also part of my growing up, and how I learned to the kind of questions that you ask people, and just listening, right? Listening is a crucial part of being a journalist, and allowing people to speak. To the magazine, because again, when I went to NYU, I did magazine journalism. For me, I chose words as my way of communicating with people and telling the story. So magazines were my world for a very long time. And then in terms of her connection to spirituality, her connection with the universe, her, you know, being aligned in your true purpose, and the reason why we ended up going on the Oprah tour in January, and that leading to kind of where I am now in my career. It's kind of all, she's always been very present in that. So she would definitely be a person that I would love to kind of spend time with, and just be inspired by her in a personal space.
If she were going to come to your house, what would you make for her?
Oh, interesting. So although we live growing up for me in terms of flavor palettes, I still love more of like the Mediterranean approach to food and cooking. That's kind of, I grew up a lot on that. So as much as I love oxtail and curry green and, curry goat, and I try not to eat too much of that because, we're also trying to be healthy and manage. So I think it would be some, like some kind of like grilled fish and just food that really are simple, but they just allow the flavor profiles to really shine through, and like some fresh salads from Stush in the Bush, and some, maybe some of that chimichurri sauce, and just some really light flavors that are just natural, and allowing their true flavors to kind of shine through.
Oh, that sounds awesome. Now I'm hungry.
Me too.
So how can people contact you if they want to reach out with you, to connect with you?
Sure. Well, I'm on Instagram, Leisha CY, and also through Elle Creative JA, on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. I'm pretty much on every platform. There's definitely something that also, in terms of, who Elena and I are and part of our philosophy of our company is kind of supporting other female creatives. We're about to launch a kind of a giveaway on our social media in terms of providing some services for small companies that want our help. So stay tuned to our platforms to see how you can enter. And then we will kind of just choose somebody that we think really is in need of some creative support in that respect. But yes, definitely on all of our social platforms, reach out anytime. I'm very accessible.
Well, thank you so much for spending this time. It's been wonderful catching up with you.
Absolutely. Thank you. You too, Lisa. It's great to see you. It's been so long.
It has been. And you haven't changed. You're still as graceful and delightful as ever. It's wonderful.
Thank you
so much.